Assalamu alaikum viewers, welcome to the show Sisterly. My name is Maryam Lemu, and with me on the show as usual are...
Assalamu alaikum, Bimpe Aliu. Monsurat Vincent, assalamu alaikum.
Lateefah, Adeyemi, assalamu alaikum.
This is the show where we talk about various issues, from contemporary issues to social issues, and also issues that affect our deen. We have a wonderful topic that we will be covering today in store for you viewers, and it's going to be raising Islamically conscious children. I love this topic because it's so relevant to anybody who is planning to have children or who has children and is going through the experiences, the adventures of having kids. Now, children can be a gift and they can be a trial to us. Allah says in the Quran that your wealth and your children are a trial for you.
Yes.
Your wealth and your children are a trial for you. Now, it is so important that we establish it's not compulsory to have children. Just like getting married, it's not compulsory to get married. It's not compulsory to have children. However, if you do decide to have children, it is compulsory that you fill your obligations to them. Why? Because they didn't ask to be born. You chose to have them.
Right.
Why? So what do we owe our children? What are their rights? What do we owe our children? Lateefah.
Okay. We all had children the right of raising them properly.
Yes.
We have to raise them to have the fear of Allah.
Exactly.
First.
Allah first in
Allah
everything
first,
you
yes.
do.
We
Yes.
teach them Salat,
Exactly.
the Aqidah of Islam, and other things about Islam.
Exactly.
Then we teach them how to how to behave in the society,
Yes.
relate with people,
Exactly.
how to be respectful to elders.
Social skills.
Yes, social
Yes.
skills. We teach them communication skills too.
Yeah.
How to communicate, when to talk, when not to talk. When your parents are talking, you don't talk. Then
Yeah.
how you feed them.
Yes.
You nurture them. You give them enabling environment.
A healthy environment.
A healthy and enabling
Exactly.
environment.
Exactly.
So that they can achieve their potential, discover
Absolutely.
themselves, and
Be good citizens in
citizens.
society. We owe them, obviously, even more. We owe them shelter. But the Prophet ﷺ said that exactly, that we owe our children tarbiyah, which is
Yes.
good upbringing.
correct.
In other words, a holistic education, that there is a healthy balance with what she started with, the spirituality. But we owe them intellectual growth. We want to make sure they have social skills also that you mentioned. Today, we see a lot of kids that have gone wayward in their behavior, in their character. Parents have kind of lost focus of how they were raised. How would you describe a well-mannered child?
A well-mannered child is obviously one in which you see the respects.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's no doubt about it.
And
Your
I think
manners,
that's such a big concern now, that
exactly,
kids
which is-
are
which is
losing
missing.
respect.
which is missing nowadays.
Exactly.
The child should be respectful.
Yeah.
A well-mannered child should have the fear of God.
Yes.
And that comes from what the parents have taught the child.
Yes.
It's not unlikely that after putting your best and teaching these kids, they probably might not take to what you have taught them.
Exactly.
But they say charity begins at home.
Exactly.
So you have no choice to teach them the fear of God.
Yeah.
The respect should be seen in them. They should be
Exactly.
well-mannered.
Yeah.
They should be cultured.
Yeah.
Teach them your family values. We all differ from culture to culture, but we all know what is morally right. And what is morally right is most instances universal. We know that we can't compare ourselves with
It's
some
in
other
black
parts
and white.
of the
Yeah.
world. But generally, what is morally right is known. So your
Exactly.
kids should know this is right and this is wrong. And then you must have your own family values. This is the way we do things in our house.
Exactly.
You don't have to be like others.
Exactly.
You don't have to say you want to do what other people are doing in their house if you cannot sustain that in your house.
Yeah.
So it's key to let your kids know the way things are done. Let them respect their elders, which is very key. And then in
Absolutely.
everything they do, they put the fear of God in it.
Absolutely. That's one of the biggest concerns I have these days when I think about how children behave. A lot of parents treat their children as if they are their friends, that they are mates. And they want to have discussions. And sometimes the discussions can be very adult. And at one point, the child starts to lose sight of the fact that this is my parent. This is my parent, not my mate, not my friend. Yes, you develop a bond with your child, so they are free to talk to you. They see you as someone they can trust completely, which is part of what a friend is meant to be.
Yes, yes.
However, where they cross the line is sometimes maybe you have friends come over and your child comes in thinking they can be part of that social setting. And I believe that is one of the big things that a lot of parents are losing sight of. When you go back to how they were raised, that is not how their parents raised them. For me, my children know, come in, always show respect to my guests.
Oh, yes.
After that, Please find your
Take
level.
your leave.
I feel that a lot of parents, they don't seem to be able to draw the line
Exactly.
between parenthood and friendliness
Absolutely.
towards their
Right,
children.
right.
Yes, when a child gets to certain age, you should separate certain things. Then you
Exactly.
can't really be your children's friend.
Always.
Always, not
Exactly.
always.
Lateefah,
Until
that reminds me. I
Yeah.
saw a video on YouTube like
Yeah.
2 years ago. An American woman,
Okay.
not a white American woman.
Yeah.
You know, she was eating ice cream and
Oh,
then
I
she was,
saw that
you
one.
I saw it
It was fantastic.
Yeah.
They asked some parents
love
who's your
that.
best friend and you say your daughter is your...
Yes.
She is not your best friend.
Exactly.
She is your daughter.
Exactly.
I'm like,
Until she,
go
you know,
girl.
she,
Well, we really have to make a point very clear. Your kids need to be your friend.
Absolutely.
They need to be their confidant.
Yes.
They need to be able to walk up to you and
Yes.
share their happiness with you,
Absolutely.
their fears with you.
But
at
they
the
should
same
know
time,
the boundaries.
They should know their
They
boundaries.
should, yeah.
And that's when we talk about your family values.
Yes.
Yes, we are close, but I'm
Exactly.
your mother.
But you establish
and so you give me
rules.
that respect. So when my friends come, you come over, you greet my friend, because some kids are just
Yes.
not mannered at all.
The adults
You
will
know?
pass them and they don't say a
Exactly.
word.
They
Oh
don't-
my God.
A
don't
visitor
even know
comes
how
in
to
to see
greet.
me and then you walk past the visitor.
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to come down, greet the visitor, and then take your leave.
some parents are actually at fault.
Yeah.
They indulge their children.
Oh my goodness, yes.
They don't tell them what is right. Some parents will be making excuses for their children.
Yeah.
How
Oh,
can
yeah.
Okay, example, you get to someone's house, your child refuses to greet the person, and you'll be making excuses. Hey, he's moody.
You know
He's
children
not
of
in the
nowadays.
right mood.
Oh, you know
Oh my
children, they
God.
don't have
I
respect.
smacked him on our way
When I do
here.
like this, they know.
Exactly.
Backhand.
Yes.
You better get up and do it.
Then some parents, they undress in front of their children.
Yes.
The children
That's
goes
bad.
into their room, and I have a friend. I once told her, I said, your sons can't be entering your room anyhow. They have to
Oh.
knock.
They are meant to knock.
No, said never.
Even
Yeah.
the room
And
of
I
my
told
house
them
with my
that
boys
before
have
entering
to
your
knock.
room, you
Yeah.
have to knock.
Lateefah, what you just said was so appropriate. There was, again, a video that I saw where this man was talking about the fact that today parents do not know or observe or give their children enough doses of vitamin N. Which
Vitamin
is
N?
vitamin no.
Because
one.
Parents don't
yes
say
for
no.
most parents. Everything
You're
goes,
Mama,
Mommy,
please,
I want this. Yes, you can
please,
have
but
it.
all my friends have it. I'm the only one left out. And the parent cannot say no. Yes, be different. It's okay. You don't have to have everything. And that vitamin N. And that is, I think, the main problem, that we forget how we were raised. And I don't know, I would love to know, what was your upbringing like? How were you raised? Because of this mistake that we make in how we end up raising our children. And often it is quite different from our own. What was your childhood like?
I mean, definitely it's not the same thing as what we have today.
Yes.
You know, looking at it now, it's beautiful because I am what I am today because of the way my parents and the society has raised me.
Absolutely.
But it's absolutely nothing to do compare with what we have nowadays. I mean,
Yeah.
then you were everybody's business.
Yes.
You know, your
Exactly.
parents gave back to
It
you.
takes a
But
village.
the neighbors, the family, the whole village
Yes.
is responsible for training you.
Absolutely.
I mean, if you dare do anything wrong, and the neighbor sees you,
Yeah.
she'll beat you,
Smack
you
you.
know, report to your parents,
Oh, yes.
you'll be beaten again, and then so you know you have to behave yourself because
You're surrounded.
Everybody is watching you. But the
Exactly.
reverse is what we have today. I mean,
Absolutely.
you can't even talk to a neighbor's child. Even teachers are not allowed to discipline their students. You see some
Exactly.
parents going to school to fight teachers
Yes.
because they are doing what they've been paid to do.
And
that's
between your
why we have the
parents-
level of decadence we have nowadays.
Exactly.
Even parents don't spank their kids. They don't scold their kids like they should.
Yeah.
And they make excuses for their kids, which is the reverse of what we had while we were
Exactly.
growing up.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. Lateefah, how was your upbringing like?
This exactly the way, like what she just
Exactly.
said.
It's the African way.
We had about 5 fathers, who are my father's close friends and cousins.
Yeah.
We call them daddy this, daddy
Yes,
that,
now.
till today.
Yes.
You know? And my father, a man of integrity, he detests lying.
Yeah.
I remember an
That's
incident
good.
where I left the house. I was quite troublesome. So I went out, and he had told me not to go out. So I went and I lied. He beat the living daylight out of his
Oh my God. Yes, he beat you.
And since that day,
Yeah.
I learned not to lie.
Not to lie.
See,
Exactly.
until today,
Absolutely.
I still don't. I'd rather not say anything about it.
Because you
Than
picture
to
your
lie,
dad coming after
exactly.
you.
You
Yes,
know, I
no.
remember that, I was told so.
Yes.
Brought up quite.
Bimpe, you must have had an adventurous childhood because your personality
my.
tells me you've been through a lot.
my.
How did you become what I'm seeing here today? Yes, do tell.
It takes a village, like Monsurat said.
Yes.
Really. First of all, I always say a prayer to my grandparents because they made us Muslims.
Alhamdulillah.
My parents are Muslims,
Yeah.
but today they just started practicing more.
Yeah.
But my grandmother would wake you up to pray. And I'd be like, Mommy, we call her Mommy. Mommy is my mom, but
Yes.
Grandma, Mommy, it's already 8 a.m. Mommy says, Allah will accept it. Go and pray. Go and pray your Subuhi prayer. So, from there we took an interest to Islam. We were 5 girls and a boy. The boy was the last growing up. So we had a full house.
Yeah.
An average house. At times, it wasn't as if we didn't have food, but it wasn't, we didn't have a lot.
Yeah.
And my father never played with one thing, education. And of course, the koboko was there.
Oh, gosh, yes.
My father tells his friends proudly today that my children turned out well
Yeah.
because of the way I trained them.
Absolutely.
And I'm very sure that had a lot of impact on us. The
Yeah.
household was
It
so
was
much
fun.
fun. It was
Yes.
So Miriam,
I know my
I think the
childhood,
point we need
yeah.
to draw here is it's you spare the rod and you spoil
And
the
you spoil
child.
the child.
Yeah.
We're not saying go all out and inflict
Exactly.
physical injuries on your kids.
Absolutely
You know,
not.
as Muslim, we also like the test
Sallallahu
leaving
alaihi wasallam.
injuries on anybody.
Causing
But
harm.
at the same time,
Yeah.
we could see the level of the fact that parents now would rather give excuse for their kids rather than correcting those kids. And that's why we
Absolutely.
have the level of decadence, kids with that lack total manners
Yeah.
roaming everywhere. And the truth
Exactly.
is that if I train mine and you don't train yours, the society is still not the better for it.
Yeah.
So we need to come together, especially as Muslims. You can, even the religion itself is a cultured one, it's a disciplined one.
Exactly.
It has its rules and regulations.
Exactly.
So as a family, in raising an Islamically conscious children, they should know that these are your norms, your
Exactly.
values.
Yes.
Islam has its own
We shouldn't
culture.
lose sight
so
of
we
that.
can't
My
lose
mom
sight of
doesn't
that.
like
We
this.
can't.
Yeah. I know, I
Handle
think
this.
back to my childhood, and I honestly I'm indebted to my parents for how they raised me. My mother especially, because she was a free bird. She allowed us to be very adventurous, to go out and explore the world. So my brothers and myself, I actually have one brother, but I have a half brother. So the three of us were the three musketeers. And we literally went on so many adventures into the bushes, following hunters that go hunting for rabbits and deer or antelopes. We follow them into the bushes and go and watch them hunt and follow them back in the evenings. This is during holiday time. Our games growing up were taking bits of food, the rice we ate for lunch, go and put it near an anthill.
Okay.
And then watch
watch
the
the
ant
ants.
slowly come pick it up and take
Yes.
it back. And to
Yes.
us, that's video game today. It was an adrenaline rush. Like, how long will it take for this
years.
one to go and tell the others to come and carry this grain of rice that's bigger than him? You know, all these things were part of what molded us today. And I think, of course, more than anything, I can't forget what my dad did when it came to discipline, because like all of us here, he didn't spare the whip.
No.
He didn't spare that. You cross the line and definitely there are boundaries. That's wonderful. When we come back, there are many other topics that we're going to go into. Please come back after the break, viewers. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum, viewers. Welcome back. Today we're talking about raising spiritually or Islamically conscious children. And the topic so far has been fantastic.
Fantastic.
We've been talking about our childhood, our upbringing, but the main topic is how to raise kids that are Islamically conscious, morally conscious. What stories can you share with us, or what are your best practices? How are you able to inculcate this? Because again, as we said earlier, the Prophet ﷺ said we owe our children good upbringing, tarbiyah.
Yes.
Anybody want to share what they are doing to try and make sure their kids are morally conscious and, don't end up becoming a menace to society because their moral compass is not facing Qibla? Any ideas? You're obviously a mother with 3 children.
Exactly. 3 beautiful boys. Alhamdulillah.
Oh,
Rabbil alamin.
boys, yes.
But you know, for me, with the grace of Allah, if you look at the Quran,
Yes.
there's a chapter on Surah to Luqman.
Yeah.
And what he did was to call his sons. And he said, oh, my son, don't associate partners with the Almighty Allah.
Yeah.
You've got to actually teach these kids what is right or wrong.
Spiritually.
Spiritually.
First.
You do not assume they know it.
Exactly.
You do not assume that because they see you pray, they would pray.
Yeah.
You not only tell them to pray,
Yeah.
you also tell them why they have to pray.
Why they have to
It's
pray.
important to actually communicate with the kids. That's what I'm saying. They actually need to be a friend. They need to know the reasons behind our action.
Exactly.
You teach them the fear of Allah.
Yeah.
And of course, they should see that fear of Allah in you, because kids actually learn by what they see more
Absolutely.
than by what you see.
You have to walk the talk
You really
as a
have
parent.
to walk the talk.
You
so
can't
it's not
preach
enough to
and
tell
not
them
act.
to do this without doing it. They
Yeah.
want to see you do it.
Yeah.
And then you now take the pain to explain to them why you
Why
are
it's
doing this
important.
and then why they have to do it. So you teach them the fear of Allah, teach them their salats, you know, you pray together with them.
Absolutely.
And then when you pray with them, I mean, consciously you've got to know what you're doing with the children. It's not out of place to see most parents saying, Almighty Allah, may Allah increase my kids in knowledge, you know, make them good children, and then let them pass all their exams. You know, more often than not, worldly things only.
Yeah.
You've got to pray for good characters for the kids. So that
Exactly.
these kids know that it is important to have a good character.
Yeah.
You've got to pray for good morals.
Yeah.
Pray for fear of Allah in them. And then they realize that not only is mommy telling us to be of good behavior, she's actually praying for this.
Yeah.
So while you do the talking, also show it in your action. You know, let the kids know that these habits of theirs are very important. That's what makes them better Muslims.
Exactly.
Inshallah.
Exactly. And also, I think more than anything, it is this issue to do with making sure, like I said, you walk the talk. A lot of
Yes,
parents don't
yes.
realize how much our kids are watching us. And we will say, don't do this, don't do that. Sometimes we're on the phone conversing with friends and we say, oh, I'm not at home. But you are at home and your child is hearing you lie.
Exactly,
And then you say, don't lie, and you whip them.
Exactly.
But you're not actually carrying out the actions that you are trying to preach to your children or inculcate in them. Really, even the prophets, Allah's prophets, also had challenges, some of them, with their children. So you as a parent can do everything in your power to try and raise your child the right way. However, you can only lead them to the water like horses. You can't force them to drink. So what do we do to start dealing with kids who rebel against these kind of things?
Peer
How do
pressure.
you, yes, Bimpe, what would you say about kids who rebel when you're doing everything and they just don't get it? Like all this religiosity, you know, I'm not ready to take it now. You know, I don't get it. And they start to behave in a manner that is not morally acceptable. Any ideas, or what do you do with your children?
Okay, so I have 3 too.
Yes.
And of course, I have a few challenges too. I mean, it's
not easy.
You can't have
It's
it
not
easy.
easy.
Parenting
That's
is
why Allah said it's a
difficult.
trial for us
Parenting
as well.
is-
Yeah,
Parenting is difficult.
exactly.
Whoever says it's easy, it's not easy.
Nothing good is easy.
At all. And you know, one of the prayers that we also say in the morning is, Ya Allah, make it easy for my children to know right from wrong,
Yeah.
and to be able to
Differentiate.
over right and wrong. So a few times I've had calls from the kids' school, Abdul Mumin is this, that, Abdurrahman this, that, and I'm like, what can I do?
Yeah.
So aside from the prayer, you have to also do something.
Exactly.
Right?
You can't just stop
No.
and pray.
No.
Allah, the
No.
Prophet ﷺ
Yes.
said, tie your camel, then pray to Allah. You can't just say, oh Allah, help me straighten out my kids.
Yes.
You have a
And
responsibility.
one thing I've come to discover is that you have to study your children.
Exactly.
What works for Aisha would not work for Abdul Mumin, would not
Exactly.
necessarily not work for Abdul Rahman.
Exactly.
So, and I studied them, then I know that, at least Abdul Mumin, I know that you have to cajole, talk, be strict,
Yeah.
beat, talk,
Yeah.
beat, let him see the love, but constantly stressing that you love them,
Yeah,
and they are Muslims,
exactly.
they are Muslims. You love them, they are Muslims. Then anytime, so what I started to do that has been working is I went to the imam of my local mosque and I said to him, what do you have for children on holiday? When they're on holiday, I don't want them to
Programs to engage our
not
kids.
even
Yeah.
programs like I want them to do. I called it community service then for the imam, and I said I want them to do a sort of community service in the mosque. Ask them to arrange the mats on Friday. They will
That's
bring out
so
all the
nice.
mats.
Yeah.
I want them to be humble
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
because they had it easier than I did.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I told them, don't. I always stress it to them. They know me. I said, nobody ain't gonna will anything to anybody. There's no money to even will
You're
to
going to
anybody.
walk it by yourself.
You are going to. Your
Exactly.
father achieved what he achieved from scratch.
Yeah.
By hard work. And I'm where I am today too. From
And you
hard
can
work.
do the
I
same.
show them that my certificates. So I'm not the mother that will say, study, you must get A in this. I said, look at all my A's.
Yeah.
You can see my name there. You know I was Adeyemi before I got married. So they said, mommy tells the truth. Yes, mommy tells the truth.
Yeah.
But
Very
also,
nice.
you know,
Yeah.
so I went to the imam and he said, community service for them. So, of course, they grumble, they complain to all their friends, no time to play. Mommy calls the community service and they work from home. Yes. there was a day they were working from school when they were still in primary school. And one of my friends called me and said, I saw your boys, they were sweating. I said, did they die?
Exactly.
They didn't die.
We try to
Found out
shield
that
them from
is
everything, air
car.
conditioning.
Put them in the car, air conditioned in the house, put them in the car, you drop. They would not. How are they going to?
You
how
don't
are
want
they
them
going
to be
street service?
stressed. Yes.
How are they going to be able to negotiate outside? How are they going to be able to survive in this harsh environment?
Exactly.
So I said, let them walk. They won't die. So they started
Absolutely.
working from primary school. So I said, okay, so this community service also, of course,
It's
walk to
part
the
of
mosque,
it.
go to
Yeah.
the imam,
I
and
agree
come back
with
home. And
you.
it worked.
Yeah.
On the Friday, there was a Friday, the imam now gave an example that bring your children for communities. I said, yay, I started this.
We're winning.
I agree with Bimpe.
Yeah.
Yes. First thing, you need to show them love.
Absolutely.
It's very important. And the second thing is you encourage them. When they do well, let them know, you've done so well. Okay,
Yeah.
you get some, not like bribe us, but let them just, to show them
Carrot and
appreciation.
stick
Reaffirm
approach.
good
Definitely.
behavior.
Then
Yeah.
show them that you appreciate them
Yes.
and teach them to be appreciative too.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely,
Maryam,
yeah.
there's no way you do it. All kids cannot be the same.
No, they
Exactly.
can't be the
And
same.
even in history, parents do have their challenges in raising up children.
Absolutely.
The stories are in the Quran. Even the prophets of God who had kids,
Yeah.
who called their kids to the way of Allah. Some of them did
They
not listen to
rebelled.
their parents.
Absolutely.
But we pray Allah not to make that our trial.
Ameen.
But even Allah says our wealth, our kids could be a trial to us at
Yeah.
times. One of the things I use is communication. We constantly have to talk to these children,
Yeah.
you know. Let them realize that if you choose to take this path,
Yeah.
it leads to success. If you choose not to listen to me,
Yeah.
may Allah have mercy.
I think role models, more than anything, is really
Exactly.
critical. And one of the
Exactly.
biggest challenges I know we are lacking is emphasizing that Muslims, that there are Muslim role models in
Yes.
society. We can't trust the censorship boards. We said that on the other episode that we had. So what they watch influences them. They don't see role models, Muslim role models that are showing exemplary character. They just see whatever is being sent and presented to them that this is your hero. The same also applies to the fact that kids these days do not look at the prophets of Allah as heroes, because they're not
Yes.
seeing them walking every day and so on. They're not on the television. They don't see the imams in society as role models. They don't see, individuals who stand out as exemplary characters. So where we are having a problem is the fact that these kids are succumbing to peer pressure
Yes.
and giving
Yes.
into that. And unfortunately, they're not able to show good character because they don't see.
They don't see one around them.
Exactly. So when your kids are listening and watching and following people like sports stars, musicians, and they
yes.
believe these are our heroes because they have made it, and they give in to that peer pressure because this is what you're listening to, the people I
Yes.
hang out with.
Yes.
How do you try and raise your kids in a way that they know where to draw the line when it
line.
comes to friendship and so on, and not to succumb, not to give in to peer pressure? You have to immunize them, inject what
say
it
it again.
takes
You can say it
to
again,
prevent that ability, or to make sure they have the ability to say, no, I won't do this. I don't have to fit in with you. What tips can you share on what you have done to prevent that?
Miriam, honestly, like every other thing, you consciously walk towards some of these actions. One thing I did with my kids is when shopping for an alfat, to take them in the Arabic studies, I don't just accept anybody.
Absolutely.
The same way I take the pain in shopping for a good school for my kids, when it comes to the Islamia, I also take the pain to get the best for them. You know, these kids are very sensitive. A kid who normally attends an international school, and then you take him to, I don't want to use the word local mosque,
school, but
and then he doesn't respect the person there because communication-wise, they're not on the same level.
Exactly.
There's nothing for him to look up to. From day one, he won't take anything away from it.
Yeah.
My kids, if you tell them it's time for Islamia, they're jumping up because the Afaz is telling them you can use your computer to learn Arabic.
Oh, fantastic.
You know, so they're telling me,
That's
Mommy,
so great.
you need to download
Yeah.
this.
Yes.
You need to get this website.
Yes.
Mommy, I need data for this. And so it makes it exciting.
Yeah.
They could relate to their teachers that teaches them Arabic because these are graduates themselves.
Yeah.
These are people who are in their own field.
Yeah.
You know, they're professionals. And then they also have Islamic knowledge. So my son knows that I need to complete the Quran. And I also have to be a graduate. Unlike what parents do, they don't pay as much attention to Islamic education when compared with the Western education. Right. I mean, people just dump their kids in the local mosque, and the kids don't even look up to their fathers there as role models. So what do you expect those kids to come out from? It's as if from day one, you're forcing them to go there. Yeah. It's as if they've got nothing to learn from those people.
Exactly.
So I've been issued from day one, when selecting such people for your kids, ensure that people that your kids can look up to, they can learn from. Right. Beyond teaching them the Arabic that they're going to learn, They could learn morals from them. They could learn values. You watch out for those and consciously take that step in ensuring that you pick the best for your children.
Yeah,
Yes,
Lateefah,
I would
any
like to
other
add
tips
to, what
on
she said
immunizing kids?
about values. It's about letting them know who they are, where they're from.
Their
Like
roots.
she said in Ibadan, growing up, we're taught about being conscious about my father's name, where I come from, stuff like that. So when you know who you are, when you know that if you do bad things,
It affects the whole family.
The whole family.
Yeah.
So when you're conscious of
Yeah.
that, you'll be careful in selecting your friends, what you want to do, and another thing is allowing the children to discover themselves and supporting them. So when they know what they want to do, and you support them, they'll just be focused.
I'm so glad you said this issue to do with their friends, because we are talking about peer pressure here. What if you find your child is moving around with a friend you don't like? And like I had when I was a teenager, I had this friend whom I grew up with. We were extremely close. However, my parents did not approve of the influence that she had on me. They absolutely, sometimes I would say I want to go to her place, they would say no. Of course, I'd be creative and find excuses to go out and then sneak off to her place. And they felt she was really a negative influence on me, and sincerely she was. But at that time, my head was hot. I couldn't see what it was doing with me. But birds of the same feather flock together. Whatever they are doing, someday I will probably
Practice too.
accept or start to practice. How do you handle if you find your child is moving around with a friend you know is going to be bad news for you?
I think at times we need to be real.
Yeah.
We need to take some desperate measures if you want good results. These children will not break if we take some desperate measures, because the protection at times,
It doesn't help.
It doesn't help.
Problem.
So if you're caught in that kind of situation, one of my sons wasn't a bad friend, but he was something almost like that bad friend example. So I said to him, you know what? Holiday is not even in Lagos. You're going to go to either Ibadan or Ede. You can even count the goats on the street. Yes, you will go there and count the goats on the streets for me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anytime I say Ibadan or Ede, in fact, this particular holiday, one of them spent some in Ibadan and Ede. And I told them that this is how we're going to be going forward.
Going forward.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
So I have family in Abeokuta too. So Ibadan, Ede, Abeokuta. You won't die. You won't break. You will learn from there. And when they're going there, I tell them, because at times the grandparents, they tend to spoil
The kids
kids.
as well.
So and I tell them what I'm expecting from them when the children go there. The last time I only went to Ibadan, I called Grandpa, he's coming. Code red. Code red, why don't you? Abdumi is coming. How do you say it? Send him over.
Yes. That means he's misbehaved.
Yes.
He needs to be handled properly.
By
I
the time
love that.
By the time he got to
came
Ibadan,
back.
he even stopped calling me. The first day, Mommy, when are you coming for me? The second day, he stopped calling me. He had blended. Because Wadoyi now knows that the way he raised us, he cannot raise them that way because things have changed.
Things have changed.
But I told him, all of them, about Wadoyi's cane, Wadoyi's stories. They all know. So he knows that Grandpa is old, but Grandpa is still
very
fighting.
You
strong.
mentioned spoiling, and I think that is so important that we know how, as parents, we make the mistake of spoiling our children, describing it as love. We feel we don't want to say no to them.
Yes.
We give them everything they want. And we don't know that we are actually creating a problem in society, a spoilt brat, a spoilt child that doesn't understand that there are times where you don't get what you want, unfortunately. Sometimes also as parents, we can be very overbearing, so protective that we don't allow our kids to breathe and grow. How do you advise parents to know where to draw the line from showing love and discipline and spoon-feeding their children and not being so overbearing? What recommendations do you have about that?
Thank you, Miriam. For me, raising these kids also depends on the kind of parents who raise them.
Yeah.
You don't even give what you don't have. So as parents, we need to learn how to train these children.
Yeah.
The fact that you've tried to get married does not mean you must have kids.
Absolutely.
Like you rightly said.
Yeah.
And if you've chosen to have kids, you've got to know how to train those kids.
Yes.
These kids have a life of their own.
Yeah.
They have a brain of their own. And if you don't allow them to make mistakes by now, because they are in your house, and you are teleguiding them, they will eventually make that mistake. And it's very costly in the future.
They will
So as
resent you.
parents, exactly. As
Absolutely.
parents, you've got to allow them to make their mistakes.
Yeah.
They won't die. You know, like some parents can't send their kids to boarding house, not because of any other reason, but because, they won't allow them to feed very well, or they won't do this. I mean, that shouldn't be the only reason why they can't go to boarding house.
Yeah.
Like she mentioned the issue of village. Some kids, my kids in the village, as if that was not where you were raised. You know, so you should know what reasons why you're taking some action. You know, kids will not die if they have to suffer a bit.
Absolutely. I love that.
The issue is communicate your love to them. Show your love to them. Everything. My kids know I will do anything for you. But as your mom, I hold you that duty to put you on the right path.
It's an amana.
And if we have to fight a war now to put you on that right path, I'm willing to do it. Because inshallah, in future, you thank me for it.
This topic on raising children, you know, we could go on this.
And on.
However, I would love to get from all of you as we wrap up. After the break, we will come back and talk a little bit more about peer pressure, because I would love, that is such an important factor that features in the family and can ruin children if you do not handle it very well. So we'll be right back after the break. Please join us again. Peer pressure, as we promised. Welcome back, viewers. We're talking about peer pressure here and how it can be very damaging if you do not, as I use this word, immunize your children with what it takes to handle and resist and not to give in to peer pressure. Any additional tips that you can share on how to inculcate that ability not to give in, to have a mind of your own? So Lateefah, what would you share with us on this immunization so that your kids can resist the peer pressure and handle this phase?
You should let them know that there's consequences for actions they take, and that if you surround yourself with bad people, the effects rub off on you. You could get, you know, jailed and things like that, and you should try to instill discipline in them and ensure they select right friends from
friends
the beginning.
Are really critical and very important. Exactly.
Children get a lot of influence, bad influence from the
Monsurat,
friends.
your children have reached the teenage years.
Yes, my first is almost going to be 12 now. And peer pressure is a real monster, if I could put it that way. You know, but as parents, we keep praying to Almighty Allah. And like Bimpe said, take some actions, you know. I try to be realistic. So I try to help them pick their friends. If I can see I'm able to do that, you know. I try to inquire who their friends are.
You have
to. So when the kids are back from school, so what's happening? You haven't mentioned any name. Who is new in class? You know, I need to know them. And then when you mention a particular name too often, I really want to know, okay, so where does it stay? Okay, you know, just to find out. Because, you know, I need to get involved. I need to make them feel very free discussing that friend with me. You know, my kids will tell me when somebody cheats in class. You know, I don't want to hear school was fine. No, I don't like such answers.
Give me the juicy
Tell
details.
me the juicy ones, those naughty ones, you know. I want to hear it. I want to be part of it. And even when they didn't do well in the test, my son will say, oh, mommy, I scored a 5 in that test. Okay, really? Why? I just want to be part of this good, the bad, and the ugly.
Absolutely.
So that when the issue of peer pressure is about to set in, am I most likely, inshallah, get to know? You know, another thing we also do, luckily for me in my estate, you know, we the Muslims come together, at least during Ramadan, and then we have our iftar together, and then they get to meet Muslim kids. So they have their friends from those families I could, to a large extent, know about and I could trust. So from that, I'm able to monitor who their friends are and get some tips on their friend, you know, without them knowing that that is what I'm actually trying to monitor.
And a lot of parents are sometimes delusional that they think friendship or influence of peer pressure comes only from humans. We forget the influence that social media these days have on our children. And we think we are protecting them by not allowing them to do it at home, or we actually stop them from using their phones, which in this day and age has become actually a huge challenge for parents because of access to the internet. So obviously for some parents, they do go overboard and to the extreme, and they say, don't have any form of, you know, they will find a way. I mean, it's like water. It's like air. It will always find its way. If they are not doing it at home, they'll go to a friend's house. Are you going to stop them from going to their cousins' homes where maybe their parents are allowing them? How do you try and filter what they go through, what they watch, that could influence them in an adverse way? Because this day and age we live in of voyeurism, we're watching how other people live their lives and we want to be like them. We want to be like the so-and-so on TVs, especially reality TV characters that a lot of kids see now as role models. What do you do with your children?
It's a really challenging world.
It really is.
You know, a lot was going through my head when you were, I was just remembering Abdurrahman Abdulmumin. You know, it's different incidents. And one which recently comes to mind, you know, the footballer, what do they call it? When they sign them on, the bonus, what do they call it? Right? And Abdulmumin loves to play football. He plays so beautifully well. Brahman is good in basketball. And Shasha bakes. Shasha is 10, by the way, and she bakes very well. In fact, we're opening a business for her.
Nice.
I am the manager, of course.
Yeah.
So, you know,
The
then
internet, yes. How
so
do
I
you
said,
handle
Abdul
it?
Mumin, what do you want to be when you grow up? He wants to be a footballer. Then I checked his Instagram page, and I see the people he's following. Of
Yes.
course, the footballers.
You have to
are
watch.
there.
Yes.
You
yes.
have to
Neymar,
look.
Junior,
You have to follow.
Ronaldo.
Yeah.
the
And when your child doesn't let you, sorry to cut you short, be a member, a contact, or
Yes,
allow you to be,
yes.
there's a problem.
Right.
So I appreciate that you're actually watching and
Right.
seeing what he's looking
because
at.
you have to let them breathe too.
Yeah.
I was going to say no phones, but come on.
It's
14,
not possible.
13, they have got to breathe. They've got to make their mistakes,
Yes.
like you said, and learn. And I said, of course, I'm going to be your manager. I'm going to be traveling around the world.
So it's a nice one.
But I said, I don't want you to make that money the
sole reason.
The sole reason why you want to be a footballer. You love playing football. You play so well. You know, and I want you to remember that money, we did not come to this world with money. We won't go with money.
Yeah.
In as much as you let them be free,
Yes.
so they know that you're not, if you're too strict, you drive them away.
Yeah.
And if you're too lenient,
You regret
for
it
them.
as well.
so you have
Either
to find
way.
a balance for each of your
Either
children.
way. So in other words, what you're saying is, you know, you do
Be
watch,
involved.
Yes.
monitor
And
what
I
they
speak
watch.
to their teachers,
Yeah.
their friends. I'm friends with their friends'
Exactly.
mom, even
Yes.
the ones I don't like.
Yeah.
I make sure I'm friends with them,
Exactly.
so we can discuss their children, our
Yeah.
children. Then, of course, I check their phones. You dare not. Why you lock? You can't lock your phone. You have my password to my phone. I try to let them know that I want you to emulate the Holy
What
Prophet
you are-
Muhammad
what you-
sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but also see some good in me.
What I'm doing.
What I'm doing.
You
So
have to walk the talk.
I don't keep. I don't
Yeah.
even. I don't go to bad sites or any sites that would make me lock my phone. So they all have my password.
You
So-
know-
so you dare not lock
yeah.
your phone when you are with me.
Yeah. You know what you said with regard to this, I feel another big issue is the neighborhoods that we raise our kids in. Sometimes we become a product of our environment. And this day and age, you find so many children hanging around in neighborhoods because they live there, which is maybe infested with drug addicts or people who are pushing drugs, even in the affluent society. Unfortunately, parents have to make a decision to do a hijrah, to actually migrate and
Migrate
leave
if they
for
need
the
be.
sake of the children.
Exactly. Yes.
I know I was raising my children in America once. As soon as one of them reached 4 years old, I came back to Nigeria because I knew what my childhood was like and how I appreciated how I was raised. I needed the community to raise my child with me, the partnership. So I want to try and emphasize that sometimes that's a reality. All right, viewers, when we come back, we'll be wrapping up the show and sharing some very, very important tips on parenting, inshallah. See you soon. Welcome back to the show, viewers. Assalamu alaikum. We've been talking about parenting and raising children to be morally conscious, to be Islamically aware, to not only be God conscious, but to also be God-fearing. There are certain guidelines, but there is no blueprint when it comes to raising children. There is no formula. However, there are guidelines that have been given to us and making sure we raise our kids with good tarbiyah. We bond with our children. And on the topic of bonding, I would love for you to all share with me what ideas, Lateefah, let me start with you, on bonding, getting closer so that they trust you and you can actually be a positive influence in their lives.
Yes. One will be part of trying to put them in the way of Allah.
Yes.
After morning prayers, you can create time
Yeah.
to read the Quran together.
Absolutely.
You recite, the Arabic and let them know the meaning.
I love that,
study
the
the
translation.
translation.
A lot
Yes.
of
They
us
have
don't
to
know the
important.
meaning.
Important.
That's
Yes, you
fantastic.
have to know what Allah subhanahu wa
Yeah.
ta'ala is saying.
And du'as as
And
well,
du'as
the
also,
translations,
and
yeah.
du'as and the hadith.
Hadith,
Sunnah of the
exactly.
Prophet, you let them know. And then you teach them about godliness and goodness to
Absolutely.
neighbors.
Spirituality,
Then,
yeah.
spirituality. You instill
Excellent.
discipline in them.
Yeah.
You show them love.
Any
And
other
then-
tips on bonding, getting closer to your children? What other activities do you do that can make them feel comfortable and closer to you? She's mentioned
Yes.
spirituality, and we said requires a holistic education. Holistic can be having fun as well.
Yes.
Recreation.
Children love to play.
Yes. What
And
kind
so
of playful things do you do to get closer
my
to
kids
your
play
children?
football.
Yes.
And then they play basketball.
Okay.
Well, I'm not too good in football, but then I joined them in playing the basketball.
Excellent.
So I joined them in doing what they enjoy doing.
Sports.
And then with that, we're able to bond together. We
Yeah.
relate together on that level. You know, of course,
Exactly.
they score all the goals, but
Yeah.
once in a while, they allow mommy to shoot, you know, get one or two shots.
Exactly.
But, you know, by the time I play with them, I'm able to also pass a message across.
Yeah.
You know, that we are one family.
Exactly.
And whatever I do, even though I've spanked you in the last few minutes,
Yeah.
it's just because
I
I love
still
you.
love you.
It's just because I love you, and then you communicate.
Exactly.
Constantly remind them.
Excellent. Talk a lot.
Remind them, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Talk a lot. Bimpe, any other tips you use to bond? You mentioned you bake, of course, you join your children in the kitchen and so on. Any other things that you do that make them feel really comfortable with you?
Okay. I tell them stories.
Excellent.
Old stories that my
Stories.
parents told me,
Yes.
and my parents' actions too, Mr. Wadoyin.
Just in addition to everything you've said, I record, because fortunately we all have Android phones these days, and our kids do. I have big teenage boys. So I record messages to them, audio messages, or small short, you know, 3, 4, 5 second videos, and sent to them with whatever moral message I want, or just to tell them I miss
beautiful.
them, how I love them. One is out of the country, but it's a great way to just keep oneself
touch.
aware and so on. And then another thing I think is so important for parents is to teach kids skills. Teach them something that they will say, my mother taught me that.
This.
Yeah, I'll never forget. My mother taught me so many things, like baking, of course, and playing a lot of sports and going fishing and so on. But I'm so indebted to her for inculcating self-confidence, that I can do it attitude. I can conquer the world if I want. There's nothing I can't do. My mother taught me that, and I'm indebted to her for it. I'm indebted to my dad for teaching me du'as, for teaching me spirituality, and so on. So it's really critical that we give our children, parents, viewers watching, we give them that gift that we're doing something. Final words, quickly. As a parent, what would you say, a parent watching, you would give as a gift to them? Best practices, make sure you teach your children this, no matter what. Try and make sure you teach them this. What would be 2 or 3 things you can think of?
Number one, they must know the importance of Allah.
Yes.
Islam. They must understand Islam, and they
Yes.
must see it as a beautiful religion.
Yes. Show them
Let
love.
them see that you love them.
Yes.
It's very important.
Monsurat, what would you share with us?
I'll start by letting the parents know that it's actually a joint effort.
Yeah.
The parents should both be involved in training these kids.
Yeah.
Because you can't give what you don't have. So
Exactly.
the parents themselves should set the example by being good role models to their children.
Excellent.
And then secondly, you've got to teach. We have to keep on emphasizing the fact that we have to teach these children.
Yeah.
We've called them children. They
Yeah.
want to learn from us.
Exactly.
And finally, the fear of Almighty Allah.
Absolutely.
Fear of
That's
Almighty Allah.
always
And a lot
comes.
of dua. A lot
Yes,
of dua. It takes
teach
the
them
grace of
dua.
Allah to put them on
Yeah.
that right path.
Exactly.
You know? A lot of dua.
Exactly. And Lateefah, your
Fear of
final
Allah.
words. Yep. Spirituality.
Yes, love,
Yes.
appreciation.
For me, I think more than anything, I try to make sure that my kids know they are children and let them live their childhood like normal kids, but also make sure we inculcate that spirituality. I really appreciate all the contributions. Parenting, as we said, there's no formula, but there are best practices. And may Allah make it easy for all of us. May Allah forgive us where we err as parents and continue to give us ideas on how to survive parenthood in the 21st century. Assalamu alaikum, viewers. We hope you enjoyed the show. Yours,
Sisterly.